Hello everybody. So today I will be talking about test for intermittent claudication. So myself Dr. Sneha Bhatia, MPT in Orthopedics and Sports Rehabilitation, in charge principal at Late Srimati S. G. Patel Institute of Physiotherapy, Dharmaj. So before I start with my lecture, I would like to say that 64% of my audience have yet not subscribed to my channel. So kindly subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon to get notified for the next video and share this channel with your friends. So intermittent claudication means arterial insufficiency to the tissues. So when there is increased vascular demand, if we are doing certain activities or movements which causes increased vascular demand, then the symptoms of claudication may develop. So claudication can be widely classified into two categories, that is the vascular claudication and the neurogenic claudication. So vascular claudication occurs due to atherosclerosis, arterial embolism, thromboangiitis obliterans, means any pathology affecting the arteries or the veins can cause vascular claudication, and it commonly manifests itself with symptoms in the leg. So whenever the patient is having vascular claudication, majority of the patient will have the symptoms in the leg rather than the low back pain, as well as rather in the low back region as well as the buttock region. Next, so this is the picture showing the intermittent claudication is often a symptom of peripheral artery disease when arteries in the arms and legs are narrowed by the accumulation of fats and other minerals. So because of our lifestyle habits and depending on our diet, there can be accumulation of fat and other minerals inside the arterial wall. So because of that, there can be development of the peripheral artery disease, and which can in turn lead to intermittent claudication. So again, see, this is the picture. On the right side, on the left side we can see the normal artery, then on the right side we can see there is narrowed atherosclerotic artery. Plaque formation can be there inside the arterial wall, which can lead to atherosclerosis, and atherosclerosis will in turn lead to narrowing of the artery. So blood flow will be restricted to the different parts of the leg. What are the common sites for intermittent claudication? So at the level of the aorta, okay, and the common femoral artery, superficial femoral and deep femoral artery. At the level of superficial femoral, 60% of the upper two-third calf claudication may develop, and superiorly aorta and at the iliac artery, 30% of the buttock and hip claudication may develop. Then popliteal and anterior tibial branches, lower one-third calf claudication may develop, and posterior tibial peroneal branches, if these arteries are involved, then there can be foot claudication. So neurogenic claudication is also called as pseudo claudication. It is also called as cauda equina syndrome. It is associated with spinal stenosis. I have already talked in my spinal stenosis video that what is lumbar spinal stenosis. Stenosis is the narrowing of the spinal canal. So this kind of neurogenic claudication can also be present in case of lumbar canal stenosis. So symptoms in case of neurogenic claudication will be mainly in the back or in the sciatic nerve distribution. So remember, in case of vascular claudication, the symptoms will be in the legs, that is the lower leg mainly, and in case of the neurogenic claudication, the symptoms can be in the back as well as the sciatic distribution. So see, this is the picture again showing about the neurogenic claudication. On the left hand side we can see the normal spinal canal. On the right hand side we can see narrowing of the spinal canal. So narrowing of the spinal canal results in irritation, pinch or compression of spinal cord or cauda equina. So again in this picture we can see claudication, sites of stenosis or occlusion. It can be at the level of aorta, common iliac artery, common femoral artery, superficial femoral artery. Side of pain, so the pain can be in the buttock, it can be in the posterior aspect of the thigh, also it can be in the calf region. So here the difference between the vascular and the neurological claudication is given. So first of all, the walking distance, okay. So in case of vascular claudication, after it is written as fixed, and in neurogenic it is written as variable. So that means the symptoms, okay. So in this case of claudication, we are asking the patient to walk a certain distance, and then we are seeing when their pain is reproduced. So in case of vascular claudication, when walking distance can be fixed, but in case of neurogenic claudication, the walking distance may vary, means the patient can get symptom after walking certain distance. Then the next thing is the palliative factor, that is the standing in case of the vascular claudication, and palliative factor for the neurogenic claudication is sitting or bending. So when they are sitting or bending, their pain may get relieved, okay. And in case of vascular, when they are standing, then pain may get relieved. Provocative factor, that is the aggravating factor. So when they are walking can induce the pain in case of vascular claudication, and walking and standing both can increase the pain in case of neurogenic claudication. So please remember the main difference. In case of vascular claudication, standing will relieve the symptoms of the patient. Walking uphill, so while walking uphill in case of vascular claudication, it will be painful, while in case of neurogenic claudication it will be painless, because while walking uphill the patient may forward bend, and forward flexion may cause reduction of the symptom in case of neurogenic claudication. Bicycle test, it will be positive and painful in case of vascular claudication. In case of neurogenic claudication, it may be negative. Pulse can be absent in case of vascular claudication, and in neurogenic claudication pulse will be present. Skin, there will be loss of hair and skin may look shiny in case of vascular claudication. In neurogenic claudication, there are no such skin changes seen. Weakness, in vascular claudication, rarely muscle weakness may be noted, and in case of neurogenic claudication, occasionally the muscle weakness may be present. Back pain, vascular claudication, it will be occasional, as I have already told you in my first slide itself, that in case of vascular claudication the pain will be in the lower legs. And in case of neurogenic claudication, back pain will be common. So most of the patient who are having neurogenic claudication, they will definitely have low back pain. Back motion, okay, it will be normal or not affected in case of vascular claudication. In case of neurogenic claudication, the back motion or the back movement will be limited. Pain character, so in case of vascular claudication, the patient may have cramping type of pain. It feels like muscle cramps, okay, which will develop from distal to proximal fashion. And in case of neurogenic claudication, the pain characteristics, so numbness will be felt, it will be aching type of pain, and it will be in the direction of proximal to distal. So that is again a main difference. Pain character, okay, in case of vascular it will be distal to proximal symptoms, and in case of neurogenic claudication it will be proximal to distal symptoms. In case of atrophy in vascular, it is uncommon. So if the patient is having vascular claudication, there will be no atrophy seen. And in case of neurogenic claudication, occasionally the atrophy may be present. So where we are going to talk about the special test to check for the claudication. So there are certain special tests which we are checking when we are in doubt or we are suspecting that the patient is having claudication. So the first test is the Stoop test. So it assesses the neurogenic intermittent claudication. Also it tells about the relation between the neurogenic symptoms, the posture and the walking. So here what the patient has to do is, the patient has to walk briskly. So there will be pain in the buttock and the lower limb within the 50-meter distance. So if the patient is walking about 50 meter and he is walking briskly, then he will have the pain in the buttock and the lower limbs. To relieve the pain, patient flexes forward. So sitting and forward flexing posture also relieves the symptom of the patient. When it is a negative test, so negative test if the flexion does not relieve the symptom. So normally if the patient is having claudication, then once the patient's symptoms are reproduced, then you ask the patient to forward flex, then his signs and symptoms will get relieved. That in that case the test is considered as positive. But if the patient is performing the flexion movement and flexion does not relieve the symptoms of the patient, in that case it will be considered as a negative test. So remember, in case of stoop test, you ask the patient to walk for around 50-meter distance, patient's symptoms are reproduced, then you ask the patient to forward bend, and within a short time if the patient's symptoms are going away, then it is considered as a positive test. So extension, it increases the symptoms. So stoop test mainly focusing on relieving factor as flexion movement. Okay, so when you ask the patient to do the flexion movement, that time the patient will have reduction of the symptoms, and if you ask the patient to do the extension movement of the spine, then it will increase the symptoms of the patient. So next test, the second test, that is the bicycle test of Van Gelderen. So what you have to do in this test, the patient will be seated on a bicycle, that is mainly the exercise bicycle which is normally available in the OPD. Then you have to pedal against the resistance, so lean backward and the patient has to pedal. So you have the therapist will be standing by the side of the patient and patient will be pedaling the bicycle. So while he is pedaling the bicycle against the resistance, he will have pain in the buttocks, the posterior thigh, and he will also have tingling in the lower limbs. So in that case it is considered positive first part of the test. So this test they have divided into two parts. So one thing is, the first part of the test is the patient is sitting on the bicycle and pedaling against the resistance. He has reproduction of his pain in the posterior thigh, in the buttocks and tingling and lower limbs, then it is considered as a positive test. Now you ask the patient to lean forward and then continue to pedal, then pain will subside in a short time. So that is considered as second part of the test is positive. So here after reproduction of the symptoms, you ask the patient to forward bend, okay, or to forward flex, to do the flexion movement of the spine. And in this case, if the patient is having reduction in the pain is going away, then it will be considered as positive second part of the test. So upright again, now the patient, so you have asked the patient to forward flex, okay, and his pain and symptom has come down. But again if the patient tries to sit upright, then again the pain will increase. So this test determines the neurogenic intermittent claudication. So remember, there is a test called as bicycle test for Van Gelderen, that is used for the neurogenic intermittent claudication. It is a very simple test divided into two parts. In the first part of the test, you ask the patient to sit on the bicycle, exercise bicycle, ask the patient to pedal against the resistance. So in this case, the patient will have reproduction of his pain in the buttock, in the posterior thigh, tingling and numbness also will be there. So that will be considered as positive first part of the test. In the second part of the test, you ask the patient to do forward flexion of the spine, and while he is doing forward flexion and trying to pedal the bicycle, then he will have reduction of the symptom. So that will be considered as second part of the test is positive. Now again, once the pain of the patient is come down, and again you ask the patient to sit in upright position, then again upright position will increase the pain of the patient. So this is the picture showing the bicycle test. As we can see in the first picture, that is on the left hand side, the patient is sitting in upright position and trying to pedal the bicycle. In the second part of the test, that is the sitting flex. So once the patient, after pedaling, once the patient starts feeling the signs and symptoms of pain, tingling, numbness in the buttock, low back, as well as the posterior thigh aspect, then you ask the patient to forward bend. So that is shown in the second picture, that the picture is on the right hand side of the screen. So if you ask the patient to forward bend and then to pedal the bicycle, then the patient will have reduction of the symptoms because of the flexion movement of the lumbar spine. So that will be considered as the positive second part of the test. So this is the bicycle test of Van Gelderen. Next, the third test for the claudication is the treadmill test. So here what we are doing, it can be also used for intermittent claudication. So we have to take 2 trials of this test. So in first trial we can ask the patient to walk at 1.2 speed, and at second trial we can ask the patient to walk at patient's preferred walking speed. Okay, now what next? Walk upright for 15 minutes or until severe symptoms, that is usual life situation. That means in case of activities of daily living, when the patient is walking and then having the symptom, so you can ask the patient to walk upright for 15 minutes or until he has the maximum pain, so that he cannot further continue the activity. Okay, which happens day to day life also, he will be experiencing the same symptom. So patient might be telling you that after this much reproduction of the symptom, I am not able to carry forward my activities. So you stop at that point. Okay, so time to first symptoms, so when the symptoms are appearing, and then total ambulatory time means how much total walking time they are spending on the treadmill, and precipitating symptoms are recorded. So all these 3 things you have to record on this treadmill test. And no leaning forward or holding handrails. So while the patient is walking on the treadmill, do not allow the patient to bend forward, because if the patient will bend forward from the spine, then there will be lumbar flexion. So flexion movement will relieve the pain of the patient. So we do not want that. We want to check whether the patient is having claudication. So for that we have to reproduce the symptoms and signs and symptoms of the patient. So do not allow the patient to lean forward or to hold the handrails, because while holding the handrails also, there will be some amount of flexion which will cause reduction of the symptoms of the patient. So we do not want that. So that is why just ask the patient to be in upright position and then walk on treadmill. So reproduction of the signs and symptoms will be considered as a positive test. Okay, so here in this picture you can see, in case of neurological stopping and standing still is good for the vascular claudication, but still causes symptoms for the lumbar spinal stenosis. Okay, so here you can see, so standing is good for the vascular claudication, but in case of neurogenic claudication, standing will increase the pain. Okay, so it is bad, standing activity is bad for the neurogenic claudication, but for vascular claudication it is good. So in this video I have told you about 3 tests mainly to check for the claudication, that is the treadmill test, the bicycle test of Van Gelderen, and the stoop test. So the reference for today's video, I have taken the content from the book David Magee, Orthopedic Physical Assessment. So thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon to get notified for the next video, and please share this channel with your friends. Thank you.